Animation has long been a passion of mine. While I stopped actually doing it years ago, to this day, I find a lot of enjoyment in watching animated shows and movies, as well as web content. Unfortunately, my interest in the subject also led me to discovering the case I'm going to talk about today. Turn back now if you don't want to hear about some really disturbing stuff. Easily the worst I've ever talked about on my channel. You've been warned. DollyFlesh. It's a name you've probably, maybe, heard before. With less than 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, he's hardly popular. Even looking at his other socials, his most popular is Instagram, with just 6,000 followers. But scrolling through his posts will reveal a number of strange pieces of artwork, mostly consisting of sculptures. The man behind the account, Leighton Allen LaBute, depicts various scenes with his clay models. All of these are so bizarre and strange that it's not stuff I actually want to verbally repeat out loud. But in a lot of cases, artists who create visually disturbing material can be perfectly okay without a history of terrible activity, right? Unfortunately, this is not one of those cases. As we travel further down the rabbit hole, you'll find that DollyFlesh is probably one of the most disturbing and reprehensible individuals online today. The DollyFlesh YouTube channel began as simply a place for Leighton to share his clay animations with the world. According to the first upload on the account, his love for the medium began in 2013 with this primitive but impressive first attempt at the style. It simply depicts a few small characters interacting, using household objects as weapons on each other. While seemingly innocent enough, the violence depicted here would become a staple of all of his later claymations, with the artist showing a clear fascination in depicting gore and the macabre. These themes took a questionable turn when in 2016, that expression shifted from cartoonish skits to oddly meticulous depictions of homicide and dismemberment. Take, for example, Butcher Terror, a short of a masked man slaying and dissecting victims before slashing their genitals. Considering the effort that animating something like this would take, it's obviously questionable that contextless depictions of gore were the only thing he had any interest in doing. Just a few months later, he published another, titled Deceived, in which two men enthusiastically create a snuff film. Content like this was far more into uncanny territory, though perhaps it could be dismissed as simple edginess. People create gory and disturbing movies every year, many of which end up at the box office for millions to see. Far worse has been depicted before in the horror genre than clay models, so the fascination itself proves nothing. At the time, Leighton was operating under the username Misery Magic, which a cursory search of reveals a since deactivated DeviantArt account. Here, he would post pieces such as Emma the Homicidal Antisocial Introvert, who, according to him, has an unhealthy obsession with grape juice and Dinkle Puff cereal. But the other art posted to the account is far more revealing. On August 10th, 2017, Leighton photographed a sculpture he made in tribute to Pogo the Clown. For the unaware, Pogo was the children's persona used by the notorious murderer John Wayne Gacy, something Leighton himself notes in the description. Idolization of a convicted serial killer is really not a good look when put alongside his blood-laden body horror pieces, but it's especially concerning when taking into account the character he debuted just prior, Itchy the Maniac. Itchy, much like Gacy, was a similarly bloodthirsty clown, though instead of targeting little boys, Leighton's character murdered women. He published two animations starring Itchy on his channel, both set in a homemade torture chamber and both glorifying excessive amounts of gore. But in case you're not entirely convinced of the connection, Itchy the Clown, Dinner, even begins with a pan shot, in which we can see a mask of Pogo hung upon his wall. The signs that Leighton was not mentally well were always there, but as the years went on, they only became more apparent. He was so proud of these animations that he began signing them with his real legal name. Following this, it wasn't long before he started to implement himself into these fantasies, depicting himself engaging in acts of cannibalism and murder alongside his creations. In spite of his art only getting more and more obscene, he interestingly began to receive some more acclaim from his peers. In September, one DeviantArt user penned an entire journal entry promoting Misery Magic, writing, "We have something special for you this month, but beware, this is not for the faint of heart. This artist takes sculpture to a completely different turn than you might find anywhere else on DeviantArt. These works are completely and delightfully grotesque. I will pin a few up here, but please go to our feature to see some more hand-picked specimens." The recognition for just how far he was willing to go led him to make a handful of acquaintances online, other artists who admired him due to his unique style of artwork. Indeed, on a technical level, his work was impressive, though those who spoke to him at all were quickly put off by his bleak outlook on life and frequent disturbing comments. One even recalled having a dream in which they woke up to find him arrested for murder. In early 2018, Layton officially changed his alias from Misery Magic to DollyFlesh. He subsequently became less active on social media. It wouldn't upload for the next 2 years. It's uncertain why exactly he took this break, though given his age, it could have been due to complications with school. Then, in February of 2019, he returned to Twitter after a 4-month hiatus to announce, "I have a new video idea. It's gonna be me dancing with clay boobies on. Also, milk will come out. I just need to find the perfect sexy music for it. Or should it be a talking video?" He also uploaded a YouTube video simply titled, "I am hungry." In the video, he is eating out of a clay sculpture of a baby, dragging spaghetti from its insides and shoveling it into his mouth. It's worth noting that his description of the video calls it a sex doll. While Layton's sick fascinations were always rooted in violence, one noticeable trend that began in early 2018 was his drift towards sexual fantasies as well. The already gruesome dismemberment pieces now had an element of perversion, with body parts being stuck in orifices where they clearly didn't belong. Oftentimes, pieces wouldn't have any horror at all, and were entirely pornographic in nature. He even began to depict himself having intercourse, while asking others to describe what the experience felt like to him. A quick glimpse of his Twitter likes also confirms this, revealing he may also have a scat fetish. Shortly after his return, Layton uploaded another video welcoming viewers to his channel, as well as announcing his future plans. He begins it by discussing how he intends to lose his virginity.
So yeah, pretty much, I've also been looking forward to losing my virginity to like a hot, rapey, freaking slim white chick, because I'm more comfortable with forward slutty girls, because the awkward girls would just make like everything awkward.
In this video, he also promoted his gaming channel. While at first glance, it may appear as an innocent place to upload Let's Plays, delving a little further will reveal that most of the videos are actually just school shooting fantasies. Layton would later go on to clarify that when he stated he'd be losing his virginity to a forward slutty hot girl, he actually meant a forward slutty silicone sex doll. In fact, he later went on to call for others to follow in his footsteps, proclaiming that you only live once, so stop having sex now, and get a silicone sex doll instead. Those of you in the audience who are more optimistic may be under the belief that his description of the I Am Hungry video was an offhand joke, a remark that I'm reading into too much. Unfortunately, that is not the case. For unknown reasons, Layton's mother wouldn't let him purchase a quality sex doll, which seems like a weird thing to ask your mom for. This then forced the punished artist to use his claymation abilities to sculpt one himself. In one tweet, he states, "We'll soon get a more skin color clay, so I can feel more horny looking at my clay girls." In another, he shows himself fisting a homemade fleshlight. But the smoking gun in this trail is from June 14th of 2019, where he plainly states, "I am going to construct a life-size sex doll or save up to buy one." I can't judge too harshly for just wanting to buy a sex doll. If you're in my audience, you've probably been there before. What I'm saying is that my subscribers are weird freaks. But more revealing to his derangement is how he ends that tweet. "The one without arms or legs. There is no running away in my house, fucker." Definitely an odd statement. That same day, he elaborated on the sentiment, writing, "I want to lose my virginity to a sex doll because it is made to replicate a real dead girl by like 99%. We will do a lot of kinky things. I'll take a crap on your chest and roll in it. It's called browning." It's called browning. "And I'll let you puke and pee in my mouth. And I'll also give you a nice warm bath." Maybe it's about time to point out he planned to name it after one of his favorite cam girls. Even down to his masturbation habits, he exhibits a disturbing level of interest in mutilation, something that will become harrowing in light of his later crimes. It became apparent that artistic expression wasn't enough for him as an outlet, and he was now using clay to act them out instead. This is where things take a strange turn. Well, as strange as a turn can be in a story about a guy who has sex with dolls he made from clay and shits on their chests. and idolizes serial killers. Layton's return to YouTube was meant to be his first step in an attempt at establishing a legitimate online career. Rather than remaining underground, he wanted actual mainstream recognition for his work. He promoted it alongside two other channels, Flesh Dolly, the previously mentioned gaming channel, and Mushy Flesh, which apparently was intended for commentary videos. The Mushy Flesh channel will be for talking about bigger YouTubers. I want to release the Losing Virginity sex doll at the same time while talking about the bigger animator. Apparently, he intended to call out a super popular animator he believed to have plagiarized Itchy the Clown. The rest of his announcement video teases other content he planned to produce.
Pretty much, I'm gonna be having a lot of crazy videos coming up. One of them isn't really as crazy, but one of them is pretty much gonna be like, I'm gonna have clay tits and a bra, and it's gonna lactate milk out. And I'll probably like dance to some music.
You wish this was a joke, but I assure you, he is a man of his word.
Oh, sweetie, sweetie, yes, darling. I hit my head while driving car. My head hurts, sweetie.
Sorry you had to see that, but in early 2019, all of these projects would come to a halt. If his past actions and words are anything to go by, Layton often uses his art as a medium to express thinly veiled fantasies. In May of 2019, he began creating pieces depicting animal abuse, including an image set of himself dismembering a clay cat. On the 6th of May, he tweeted, "I think I'll purchase some hamsters soon, as a form of company." The next day, he posted 3 hamsters with a smiley face. 1 week later, Layton filmed himself playing with the 3 hamsters on his YouTube channel. Its description reads, "Pin stabbed, drowned, microwaved." The next day, he uploaded an 11-minute video showcasing exactly that, torturing and maiming each of the hamsters, one by one. The video was quickly removed for violating YouTube's terms of service. The audience he'd accumulated attempted to have him investigated by the authorities. Unfortunately, due to his low profile, there wasn't enough backlash to catch the attention of law enforcement, meaning he wouldn't face repercussions for some time. In fact, his social media activity suggests he continued business as usual after realizing there would be no immediate consequence for his actions. In case all of the other red flags weren't enough, he began conceptualizing a first-person massacre animation. He also created a clay mask to use in his future vlog-style videos, though the only video content that saw the light of day was him pretending to molest a children's toy. The inactivity on behalf of Canadian police was not unlike that seen in the Luca Magnotta case, of whom Layton clearly took inspiration from given the video's naming scheme, originally titled 1 Kid, 3 Hamsters. But another similarity is how the two attempted to sensationalize their crimes. Luca created promotional materials prior to the release of his videos, and taunted amateur detectives who wanted to see him arrested for abusing kittens. Layton similarly sought infamy, and was disappointed at the initial response, or rather, lack thereof. Because of this, almost exactly a year after the video was filmed, he decided to distribute it again, this time across Reddit. On May 14th of 2020, Layton began posting 1 Kid, 3 Hamsters across a multitude of subreddits, splitting it into 3 individual parts. These communities ranged from horror literature groups to work-safe pages such as Young People YouTube. He used several different Reddit accounts to use this, all being variations of DollyFlesh with a number afterwards. If there's one thing to be learned from the internet, it's that cruelty towards animals of any kind will be swiftly punished. His freedom would only last another week, when finally, on May 22nd, the 20-year-old was arrested on 3 counts of animal cruelty. But this isn't the end of his story. If you pay attention to his social media, he continued posting on Instagram well into April. He was able to verbalize his woes of a sex doll.
How often will you find a girlfriend that's custom designed and perfect the way you look? Or even one without arms and legs? Maybe you'll get tired of screwing her in her plastic bum and want to move to her ear canals, which are stretchier than real human ear canals.
As well as hit himself in the face with a hammer. It turns out, Layton was given the choice of bail only 3 days after his arrest. This was so outrageous that there was a protest over this decision, with people who wanted him imprisoned for his crimes standing outside the Kelowna courts. The protest ultimately was unsuccessful, and it's unknown what Layton has been up to since his arrest. He was likely advised to stay off social media by lawyers, though honestly I don't think that was much of a help to him given what he did. Layton's trial was scheduled to take place in August, and would have lasted approximately 3 days. Instead, on June 3, 2021, he pled guilty. It's currently not known how he'll be sentenced, though the article that broke the story states he is undergoing additional psychiatric examinations due to his social media presence and the content posted there. With all of that out of the way, it does beg the question of what happens next. The punishment for animal cruelty is, at most, a few years, so it's honestly worrying what he'll do once the case is concluded. It's unclear if he expresses any remorse for what he's done, but it seems unlikely given his previous activities. After initially posting the video, he only reposted it due to his lack of notoriety at the time. It seems that he got everything he wanted. He is now known by locals and onlookers online as the Kelowna hamster killer. It's also unclear if, following the sentence, his behavior will escalate, but there's some speculation that it could already be happening privately, away from our eyes. It's worth pointing out that an entire year passed between when Layton filmed himself with the hamsters and his conviction. Beyond what he's published willingly online, his time in that period is largely unaccounted for. It is extremely possible that he could have escalated. For what it's worth, this is all speculation, but locals in his area have begun questioning if he could have been responsible for a separate series of crimes. In June of 2020, local news reports began to emerge of pet cats being found cut straight in half. While at first dismissed as simply the doing of an animal, the odd circumstances surrounding the cases and frequency of them caused them to suspect that someone may be going around, torturing, mutilating, and killing cats in Kelowna. This was later discussed in the area's subreddit, where a majority of the commenters began pointing to Layton, specifically highlighting the aforementioned image set of him dismembering a cat. Its caption? "I like cats better." Now, it's worth pointing out that this is all speculation, and not even my own. The pet owner from the first incident also pointed out that their cat's autopsy indicated it had been the victim of a coyote attack, not some deranged human. In a thread from the subreddit Morbid Reality, several classmates gathered to discuss their own experiences with him. These two are unverified, and should be taken with a grain of salt, though it's worth mentioning that they seem to corroborate each other's stories. 3 different individuals alleged that he was expelled from school, with 2 stating it was because he threatened to put mustard gas in the building's vents. One quoted him as stating that he wanted to kill all the pregnant bitches to multiply the kill count. There are also claims that he produced a claymation animation depicting himself killing his grad class. If true, it's unknown what this is in reference to, be it a previously mentioned short or the first-person massacre he had in production. Although he is facing some legal consequences for his actions, ultimately, Layton got what he wanted out of the situation. Where social pressures, morality, and shame elude him, his desire to be known and hated for his actions are ultimately all that matters. While his future is uncertain, the sad truth is that if allowed to continue his activities unhindered, it's likely he will return to his ways, until he does something more serious and is incarcerated for longer. Definitely one of the most disturbing individuals I've had to research online. The few funny moments along the way will never make up for the abject cruelty that he displayed in the end. I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.